Today we sit down with Suki Toguchi, Chief of Staff at Gilead Sciences. Suki was born in China as a second child during one-child policy and moved to New York at just 6 years old with her parents and sister, arriving with only $100 in their pockets. We talk about community, education, competitive sports, hard work, and the leadership lessons that shaped her journey. Today's episode is a real reminder of what can happen when resilience meets opportunity. Tune in.
Rules to Thrive Season 2 is highlighting first-generation and immigrant stories. And I love to go deeper and just share what success looks like that's built on grit and resilience. So I'm excited for you to share your story because it's very different from our audience, and I just want to inspire our audience. So let's get started. If you can introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and tell us what you do.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Suki Toguchi. I am originally from China, from Guangzhou, China. It's in the south, about 2 hours from Hong Kong. And I immigrated to New York when I was 6 with my parents and 2 sisters. I currently work at Gilead Sciences. It's a biopharma in California, and I am the chief of staff, as well as executive director for the organization that makes the product.
Mm-hmm. Let's start with your childhood.
Yeah.
I immigrated when I was 12, so 6 is a lot younger. What do you remember? Like, how did your parents tell you, we're leaving, we're going, what's happened?
Yeah, so when I was 6, I had very vague memory of China. I remember being in daycare and not started school yet. I remember it was an overnight daycare, so I was left there during the week, and, my parents would pick me up on the weekends. They would bring snacks during the week, but it was an overnight, and I stayed at the daycare most of, the week, and both of my parents worked. And so I have very, very vague memory of actually the daycare itself, some fair and festivals of, I would say, China itself.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my memories really started when I was in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my parents, and this is all hearsay, my mom telling me that when they came over, they only had $100, like US dollars. Back then, it was quite a lot. This is 1985.
Yeah.
So it seemed like a lot of money. But they really came over as the last set of family members on my dad's side. So my dad's sister was the one that filed immigration papers for the entire family. We were the last family to leave China to come to the New York area.
So it was family reunification process.
Yes, exactly. And for the first few years, we stayed with my grandma. And I remember, there were cousins and grandparents and uncles, so it was a lot of us staying in a very small apartment. And then we moved out when I started school, like second grade. And we had a very small apartment. But it was, very, I remember a lot of family time, a lot of just being with others, but not my parents. Like, my parents had to find work really quickly. My mom used to work at a hotel in China. She couldn't do that here without the language barrier being a big deal. And then my dad was in construction, but obviously didn't really have means to do that here as well. So both of them found jobs through family and kind of the Chinese community. The Chinese community in New York is very strong. In Chinatown, in Brooklyn, Chinatown, like, they just were able to navigate through the Chinese community. So my mom started working as a seamstress in one of those workshops, workshops, right? And then my dad started in the restaurant, as everyone else does, and being a cook.
Wow.
And
so complete shift.
Complete shift.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know that until maybe further when I probably was in middle school.
Yeah.
And I realized, wow, why are they gone all the time?
Yeah.
Like, why, I'm surrounded by other family members, but not my parents. And I really had to, my sister is 2 years older, and she and I really had to fend for ourselves. Like, we had to walk to school by ourselves. We had to, navigate the school system. Anything that was really English related, we had to fund and we had to learn and adapt and, I don't know, learn the language, be able to interpret for my parents, be able
Translate the bills,
the
doctor's appointment,
anything that it has some English tied, my sister and I were it.
Yeah.
So
you were 6, she was 8.
Yes.
Wow, that's early.
It is early, but I remember it not being so scary.
Yeah.
Like, I remember it being more of an adventure than it being like, oh my God, there's all this burden, right? It was more of just survival. Like, you just kind of
no other option.
You didn't have any other option, but I also had, I felt like I had a very happy childhood. My parents were very loving. They weren't there all the time. They had to put overtime. They had to work. Both excessively, but I remember them being super supportive, being, there when we needed them for like birthday parties, right? And being there in a very loving way. So I didn't feel like I missed out on anything. I didn't even at that point knew to compare, myself to others.
That was the life you knew.
Yeah, I would tell others now, and even my daughters, that I had a very shelter and bubble life.
Yeah.
I mean, I surrounded myself with a lot of family members. All my friends were also Chinese, and we had really I would say like a very shelter loving community. And so I felt very blessed in that way that there wasn't a struggle. Like I didn't see struggle. I didn't encounter struggle. Obviously, we didn't have a lot.
Yeah. But at that age, I don't think you know the difference, right? Like that's
Yeah.
You kind of compare it to maybe children that you're hanging out with, but it's not like a acutely felt difference, right, at that age.
And I would say that because we're in public schools, right, others didn't really have a lot either. And so it wasn't like I was comparing myself with others, and all my friends were also immigrants, right? And so I kind of felt like, there was not a comparison. Like I didn't really feel other.
Yeah.
I didn't feel different. I just felt like we didn't have a lot.
Yeah.
We didn't buy clothes. We didn't go out to eat, right? But I didn't feel like I was missing anything.
Yeah, because you had the community.
I had the community, and I felt very loved.
Yeah.
I didn't feel any different, I think, until I went to high school.
Okay.
And in high school, I went to Brooklyn Tech. High school, you have to, in New York, you have to take a test and, qualified into one of the 3 specialized high school. And so I got into Brooklyn Tech and started there. And I remember it being a very big school. I mean, my elementary and middle school were, mid-size. But you were always able to find sort of those classmates or groups or school friends that you were able to connect with. I remember the first time I felt like, wow, I am in a very different environment was in Brooklyn Tech. I mean, it's a very square building, it felt very enclosed. But it also was an environment where everyone, because you had to test in, everyone was just super smart, right? Like
the base was set.
The base was high, right? And you're competing against others who are, super ambitious, who already knew where they wanted to go, who also had means to, kind of get the latest clothes, were much more in culture. And I remember, being there and starting school and thinking about, wow, like this is very different.
I think about that all the time too, because I came when I was 12. And before high school, I had the same thing. Like I didn't think I was missing anything.
Yeah.
I had the clothes, I had my toys, whatever amount it was, nowhere near to what my sister has now or, I see kids have now. But it didn't matter because I had toys.
Yeah.
Same thing in terms of clothing. My mom would buy me what I had, and that was, 5-10 outfits at most. That was luxurious. And I just remember when I was growing up, I had like a shelf within their closet, and that was my shelf, and that's all I had. Now you look at closets, right? It's very different.
Yeah.
We're very fortunate in that ways. But I remember, same thing is, I remember it didn't matter. But when we get to high school and I think about, immigrants and first generations that are coming now, it's the fitting in, right? You're trying to figure out and navigate, where do you fit in? And I remember the funniest thing, which I haven't talked about before, but I really loved bunnies when I was little. Like, I don't know, it was a thing, it was a phase. So my mom kept getting me, she would go to Ukraine. I was born in Ukraine. She would go to Ukraine and buy anything that had bunnies on it.
Oh.
And little did I know, I am coming to school with jeans with a massive bunny on it, with a hat with a massive bunny on it, with a shirt on the back, massive bunny, and it was a Playboy bunny.
Oh my God.
I had no idea. And it was
No
like,
cultural context.
none. I mean, it wasn't like a thing.
Right.
So that was a big culture shock for me. So I'm curious, how did you start adapting as you get to high school? The level is set, very smart, bright kids, but now you're sensing the difference in the upbringing and the means. What was that for you?
Yeah, so it was interesting because before high school, I didn't feel like I needed to assimilate. I had my circles, I had my friends, I had my, kind of little bubble and community. But in high school, I think it's that age, right? You're a teen, you want to fit in, you want to find your circle. And even during lunch, I remember like even lunchtime, it's like, where do you sit? Like, who do you sit with? Like, that was a big deal. Fortunately, I think found a crew, and it was really by accident. My best friend from elementary, I met her in 4th grade. She was also in the same high school as I was, very athletic, and so she tried out for the track and field. I didn't even know what track and field is. At that point, I was like, is it running? What is it, right? Like, we didn't do any sports in elementary or middle school. And so she tried out, and I was like, I'll come with you. I'll go. And I end up trying out too. And there, at that point, this club really was no cut, so they didn't cut anyone. I ended up going in, but I am quite an A type, so I was not good at track. I was pretty horrible. And first season is cross country, which means you have to run outside, you have to go through all these hills. And I am one where like I want to get better, and I have a goal for myself, and I want to, no matter what it is, I just want to strive to get better, to be good at this thing, and that was it. Like, I fell in love with track. I fell in love with cross country, and fortunately found a team, like these teammates around me that became my closest friends. And they were all different. Like, I was probably the only Asian besides my best friend in the team. They just folded me in. They like included me. They were all African American, Black. They had their own culture. They had their own way of like, even talking to each other, right? They were so cool. Like they were, at that age, hip hop was cool, rap was cool. And they, to me, was so like exotic. So different. And like, I've never hung out with anyone like that before high school. So that became my crew. That became sort of my life because I spent so much time with all these teammates. We practice every day. We go to meets every weekend. Even the summer, we practice together. So we formed this bond that was, I would say, pretty unnatural because we were so different. And I am so uncool, And they really taught me kind of how to run, how to, and be appreciative of the culture, the music culture, the hip hop, and really loved me as a sister.
I love that. I think that that's a really different perspective on assimilation into the American culture through sport.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. Something came up recently to me that I think it's worth talking about because you're in a very strong leadership role. You've been in leadership roles. Sport becomes a very big part of setting you up for success.
Yes.
Being a teammate, being competitive, knowing how to overcome challenges. Like you said, you're type A. So no matter what you're putting your mind to, you want to be the best and you want to try your hardest. So I'm curious that if you think back with sport and the career you've built, what's the correlation? What do you think that gave you as a baseline
Yeah.
as you got into corporate world?
So what's interesting with track and field is that you have an individual sport, right? For me, it was long distance, but there was also a team component. And so I ran in the relay with 3 other teammates, and we, consistently ran as a team of 4. And so I do think track itself was interesting in a way that it really taught me I had to really show up and compete against myself.
Yeah.
To do better every time. I'm also competing to add points, right, to my team so that we can, I don't know, be the best in that particular race or particular, region, etc., or state, or get to the state. But then the relay really taught me how to work with others, like where I am in that relay, like how do I can continue. I was not the fastest runner. We were running the 4x8 and I was the 3rd leg, which meant I just need to finish. I need to get it to the 4th person who's super fast that will get us to the end, right? So I kind of knew my spot. And I think how I tie it to leadership is I do think that each leader really need to be self-aware of what their strengths and who they are and how they lead. And I think each leader is unique in their ways because we all come from very different background, right? We all have different experiences. So how we lead is very different.
Yeah.
But I think we need to surround ourselves with then a team that can fill in
the first, the second, and the fourth.
fill in those spots that are potential gaps, right? Or potential areas that we think we are not good at. So currently I don't have a team. I'm a team of 1 because I'm a chief of staff.
Yeah.
But previous to this job, I had to build my team, a global team of 40 people plus, 100 contractors around the globe. And for me, it was really important to fill that team with skill set that I knew I was lacking, whether that is a technical skill, right, that I knew I didn't have, and or being able to be at a location, right, that I couldn't be at. So I think it's really important for leaders to really recognize sort of that it's not to hire the like me or the me too, but really hire those that will fill out sort of that relay.
Of what you need to cover. Yeah, I love that. I love that approach. And I don't think on the podcast, we've talked about the strength of leadership and sports and teamwork. And I think if I think about the next generation and being pregnant, I think sports has to be a huge part of assimilation to anything because you learn competitiveness, you learn how to commit, you learn how to be a part of something. And I think the resilience, if I think about us, right, we had to learn resilience just because we were thrown into the situation.
Yeah.
How do you build resilience for kids and generation that's born into the U.S.? So I think that's the only way I can think of is the sport, but it's nowhere near the resilience that we went through. So I'm curious, you're 6, you arrived to the country. Did you have an American dream? Like what did that look like to you? Or did it develop over time?
It definitely developed over time. I knew my parents came here wanting the American dream for my sisters and I didn't really know what that was. They just meant a better life. They knew that in China we would have struggled. I was the second child in a one-child policy communist country, and so both of their pay was docked. And literally my mom, when I was old enough to understand, she would tell me that I was almost she almost aborted me or was asked to abort me because the policy was so strong and there was such a community to really enforce the policy. Like everyone was really dedicated to, complying. And so there was a few times where she almost had accidents, right, of having me. And so to me, that gratitude that I have, not only because my parents took such a risk to come here, but mainly because I'm the second child, that I feel like there is a gratitude to just be alive.
Yeah.
That like my parents, my mom didn't succumb to
policy.
Yeah, to all this pressure.
Yeah.
And that she had to, I was able to be born, that they were, able to support me and my sister. So I think that gratitude really translates to being able to be successful, whatever that meant.
Yeah.
And it wasn't supposedly American dream, but it was to get out of whatever the current situation was. Like I saw both of my parents working 24/7, right?
Even in China and then U.S.
In the U.S., exactly. And jobs that they, really couldn't, blue-collar jobs that they really couldn't get out of. There was no leveling or, kind of extra pay. They also, I also remember distinctly, like, working very early on. Like, I was probably 12 when I started working in a sweatshop, because I was the only place I knew that you can actually work at before the legal age. And I distinctly remember that summer being in a sweatshop and working for pennies at the time for each piece, and remembering how miserable it was, how bad the environment was, and also really appreciating kind of the toil and the hard work that my mom and others, right, my family members were going through. And we distinctly remember that summer to like commit to myself, I will never do this again.
Yeah.
That I need to get out of this place. And that I need to achieve whatever, whether it's American dream or success, to kind of pull me and my family out of this situation. And that's why I think education is so important. Like my parents would say this, they weren't able to, really support us in the terms of being able to get tutoring or even be there for us for homeworks or extra help. But I remember that education was really the only means to get better
better
opportunities to really understand, different roles or different jobs. And at that point, I didn't even know what different roles were, right? Like none of my family members have graduated from college. None of them had roles or jobs that I would aspire to be, right? And so the only job or only place that I really saw was being a doctor, because you always have to go to the doctor. And in the Chinese culture, that was like the top.
That's the lawyer, doctor.
Exactly. All the white collars, kind of, very prestigious.
Engineer.
Yeah.
All those scientists, like that's the
definition. Even scientists, I didn't know any scientists.
Yeah,
I didn't even know what that would mean. And so, you kind of just glance at who you knew. So my American dream at that point was be a pediatrician.
Wow.
I was very good, and thankfully, I would say I was very good in math and science growing up. It just came naturally. I was in science fair. I got to do a lot of science sessions, camps, etc. in the summertime. I had really great teachers, science teachers particularly, that encouraged, supported. And so by the time I went to high school, I was a chem major. So I majored in chemistry. I knew I was going to a path of science so that I can be, at that time in the field of pediatrician or doctor in some way.
I remember my mom just kept pushing me to be in school and just take the engineering element and sign me up for classes. And I was luckily really good at math and physics because it came also naturally to me. but I was resenting it. And I remember being like, I want to be a psychologist and I want to work with kids. So very similar. I really wanted to work with kids. And then I got to do it and I realized actually my mom was right. You know, the background in engineering and physics and being good at math set me up for so much more success in anything I was going after because it's such a strong base that gives you the strength to kind of navigate.
Yeah.
I was really bad at chemistry. That was not it for me. So
Well, that's why I keep telling my kids, I was like, you need a foundation in math.
Yes.
Math will get you everywhere, anywhere. And I do think it's a core. Like if you think about computer science, physics, like even in the science field, we need data, right? And we interpret data. And so I do think that, you know, having a strong base, whatever that may lead to, is important.
So tell me, when your parents are telling you school, get a better job, will get you a better life, right? Did they give you any guidance on they just wanted you to be really good at school?
They didn't really have an inkling either. You know, both of them came very much in blue collar jobs, right? And didn't really have expectations. I think their only expectation was that I would graduate from college.
That was the standard.
That was the standard. To be the first graduate out of college, to get a decent job.
Yeah.
But they didn't have any,
It didn't matter where.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
And the same for you and your sister. That was the bar.
That was the bar.
Okay.
Graduate, get a job.
Yeah. So you go into high school, you already have a major. How do you navigate what's next once you need to apply for colleges?
Yeah, so I applied to many colleges, similar to today, and got into University of Michigan, which I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
You know, coming from New York, and we didn't travel,
Yeah.
right? We didn't have means to travel. I didn't even know where Michigan was, actually. I think I was not great in history and geography, and had to ask, you know, the school to send me additional information.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it'd just be like, I'm never gonna, you know, visit the school, but I've heard so much about you. Can you just tell me more? Tell me why I should.
Maybe. Yeah.
Tell me why I should come to the school. And so one of the clubs sent me like a video and a welcome video, as well as like one of the cultural events, and it really sold me.
Yeah.
And the other reason why it sold me was my coach, my track coach, who's like a second father to me, really, you know, wanted me to go to Michigan. He thought very highly of Michigan and was like, this is the best school, you know, and with his endorsement and sort of getting more information and a full scholarship.
Wow.
You know, it had to be somewhere where my parents really didn't have to pay.
Yeah.
That was, you know, the only option for me.
Wow.
Well, one of the options. And I ended up going mainly because I think coming from New York, I really want to experience something else.
Yeah.
New York can be, you know, you're from there.
Yeah.
It can be this very hodgepodge of people, but you don't actually mingle.
Yeah.
You don't actually
you have
mix.
Your
You have
cliques.
you have your kind of cliques and community. And so I really wanted to leave New York, to leave a community that I know so that I can take a risk and really learn
and be on your own.
and be on my own.
I had this same exact drive. I finished my bachelor's and I thought that it wasn't enough. Like I felt like I didn't get enough education and I wanted to get out. And I went, like you, without seeing, to Chicago.
Oh, Chicago's so nice.
It's beautiful. Michigan's also awesome.
Very cold.
Yeah, very cold. Oh, man, Chicago. I didn't last. I had to ask for permission from the dean to finish earlier because I didn't want to do another winter. I only did one winter. So it was insane. That's just spoiled me and overly ambitious. But you go to Michigan, and how do you land? Where do you land? Who gives you your first chance in a career? Where do you go?
Yeah, so I was a pediatrician, wanted to be a pediatrician. I was a chem major going into Michigan, or thinking that I would be a chem major going into Michigan. And I took my first organic chem class and hated it. It was in a room of 800 people. Like, at that point, I didn't really know how to ask for help, when I needed the help. And so I really suffered. Suffer in the sense that like I thought I knew chemistry, but I really didn't. And so I had an epiphany one day and said, I need to pivot. Like I can't spend the next 8 years being in school and intern and do whatever to be a doctor. I need to get a job, right? As my parents said, get a job. And my roommate at the time was a business major, or she wants to get into the business school. So in Michigan, you apply as a sophomore and you get in as a junior. So it's a 2-year school. You have to take all the prereqs, etc. And so I was like, okay, why don't I try business? It can't be that scary. And it can't be worse.
Be as bad as chemistry.
It can't be as worse as chemistry. And so that's what I did. I pivoted, took all the econ and accounting and applied to the business school, got in. And then through my 2 years in business, I really didn't know what I wanted to do.
Because it's so much more broader.
So much more broader, but I also didn't have any role models. I didn't know anyone in business, right? So I didn't really have an aspiration of like, what does that look like? What does that really mean? I did an internship junior year at Arthur Andersen, one of the Big Six back then, Big Six accounting firm as in their advisory. Loved it. Because when you're an intern, they treat you super well. They just, like you just you have really good projects. You hang out with,
very senior people. You get to learn.
Yes. And it was in New York. It was super fun. And so that's what I ended up doing. I got a full-time placement in Anderson after graduation. So I started with them. That was the year that it went to challenges when the Enron scandal hit. Anderson was impacted. And so the company, within 9 months of me starting full-time, folded.
Wow.
Because during that time, I mean, like I'm a first year, don't really know anything yet, trying my hardest, and was like, wow, do I need to interview for a new job?
But
I don't even know what
got here.
I just started.
Like still learning what this looks like.
Exactly. I don't even know what I want to do. And thankfully, a partner at that time, I'm not sure what he saw in me, but he had the opportunity to go to Ernst & Young and take 7 employees.
Wow.
It didn't matter like what level or, or expertise. He was an insurance advisory partner, and he selected me. And so I mean, that was my first kind of experience of, wow, like I must be doing something right. And it really changed sort of my career trajectory. I ended up spending 10 years in E&Y, in New York, Japan. Like I had a rotation in Japan. Then I moved back. When I moved back, I moved into San Francisco. It really taught me a lot around, client services, around building teams, about coaching, about mentoring, but also about asking good questions, about being a problem solver, about being, the value of relationships.
I think that's so important as you're talking about it. I always love to recognize people that give you your first shot. If you think about our careers, there's no way we'd get into senior leadership roles without others and their support. So I'm curious, based on the support and kind of the opportunity he gave you, how do you create opportunities for others now?
Yeah, I think it's super important as we think about kind of paying it forward or giving back, I think around being good sponsors. So there's difference between mentor and sponsors. And I think early in your career, you can be mentors, right? You can be kind of coaching others. But until you get really seat at the table or a leadership, position, you can't really be a sponsor. So I've been thankful to have sponsor in my career, especially at E&Y as well as now at Gilead. And now as a senior leader, I think my role is to find those talent.
The next,
kind of unsung heroes, the people who may not be, the ones out there getting visibility or having sort of the ability to be visible.
Yeah.
And to really,
It's the you 9 months into the company,
yeah,
right?
and to really see something in them and to
Yeah.
be able to be good sponsors,
Yeah.
right? To be able to say their name in
Yeah.
a talent conversation, to
Yeah.
be able to bring out, hey, this person did this amazing project,
Yeah.
and did you know about this? Like, I have the ears of all the Gilead leadership team, right? How do I get others, right? How do I exemplify? How do I bring examples
Yeah.
of people doing great work
Yeah.
that
And
normally
lift them.
doesn't get, and lift them up,
Yeah.
right? In a very subtle and important way, I think.
It's such a huge responsibility, and I think it's a great balance to have, to give people opportunities, but also have your credibility that you're bringing the best people. And I think it's, in today's economy, it's tough because my heart, knowing how many people were laid off, my heart breaks every time. But I also think about the balance, right? People that reach out to me because I have a network asking for help. And if I don't know you, I have a very hard time making that recommendation unless you give me very solid proof that you can do it. So I think it's a hard balance. The people that you sponsor, what you're referring to, are the people that you see the opportunity in and you see their potential.
Yes.
But I think let's give our audience advice on how to be visible.
Yeah.
So I think one of the best advices I've gotten from our speakers and in my career is ask and you shall receive, and just talk about what you actually want to do and what you aspire to do. Even if you're not doing it yet, what would be something you'd want to do that you'd want to be nominated for? So when you're in the rooms with the senior leadership, you can think of, oh, there is this junior person or mid-level person that told me they want to do this project, and this project is actually happening. I can nominate them now. From the people you brought into those opportunities, being the role that you're in, tell us a success story, like what good looks like to create opportunity for yourself if it is an individual.
Yeah, so I think there's several ways. A good sponsor of mine at Gilead has said that you should always be prepared to have like a 6-second elevator pitch. And that always resonated with me because she said to let people know of what you're doing without, being overly
Explaining
overly explaining, but be able to have specific talking points so that people know and remember kind of specific things that you've done that they can tell others, right? So that 6 seconds elevator pitch is super important. I would say the second thing is we all talk about kind of these open office hours or open door policy, but I find that people don't normally normally don't sign up or don't find ways to really have things to say
or create the opportunity
and so I do think it's super important if you have the opportunity or there are open office hours, to sign up and to ask and be prepared, right? Like it's a conversation both about kind of telling the person about what you're doing, but also asking about guidance and advice and being able to be a little more memorable. I would say for me, I think there's a few folks at Gilead that I would say mentor, sponsor. I have lunch with them on a regular basis just to catch up, just to say, what have you been up to? What's your future plan? And like, what is it that you want to move into? What roles are that, so that I am clear about what they want to do?
But that's rare. What you do is rare. Not a lot of executives do it. You have a rare trait to create that opportunity for them.
I do think that some people ask for that.
Yes.
I see a lot of individuals who are very coming in terms of getting that opportunity and making those guidances. For me, it's a little combo of both. Like I will always say yes to a lunch or a coffee chat or to someone who wants to get guidance or wants to meet. But I also am looking for the ones that are not asking as well, right?
I love
Those that are doing great work, those that are diverse talent that needs a little bit more. Maybe they're an introvert. Maybe
Yeah.
they just need a little
Little bit
more
of a
time and
push.
space. And a push to really think through. And so for me, there's some folks that I ping once in a
Yeah.
while, just be
Yeah.
like, hey, how are you? Like,
Yeah.
what are you thinking? What role are you thinking?
Yeah.
And how can I help?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not, it's not that I have a magic wand. I
course.
can't place people in certain opportunities. But if I know and I remember, I can think about when we have the next conversation or when an opportunity arises.
Yeah.
Or there's an opportunity to express what this person has done.
Yeah. So your takeaways is have your 6-second elevator pitch.
Yes.
Be very clear about what you're looking for,
Correct.
what's interesting to you, and unless you're lucky and get to meet you, be proactive about who you want advice from and who you want to potentially create as a mentor in your life, but who can eventually become a sponsor. So I think those are the 3 main takeaways. Tell me, I know we talked about Gilead, but you spent 10 years at EY,
I did.
and then you're a Gilead boomerang.
Well, Gilead Boomerang in the sense that I went to a subsidiary that was purchased by Gilead. So I did go to Kite Pharma for about 3.5 years.
Yes.
And then came back.
Yes. Tell me about that journey.
So when I started at Gilead, so I was always part of the IT organization, and I made my own rotation. I went from, supporting G&A to then I had an interest in commercial and understanding how do we make revenue and the commercial footprint. So then I spent 4.5 years in commercial, at Gilead Commercial. When the opportunity came to then, support Kite. So Kite Pharma is our cell therapy company. It's a subsidiary of Gilead, located in Santa Monica. And I had the opportunity to go there, recruit, and build out what we call the tech ops IT organization. So the enabling organization to support the function that makes the batches, that makes the product for the patient. It was a wonderful opportunity. I mean, Kite, and I tell the people at Kite all the time, they're family. It's such a special place because it's almost like a startup within a larger company.
Yeah. So you have the backing, but
yes,
of the startup.
Exactly. So you had the backing of a large company, but there was such autonomy. There was such a, small, almost like a small startup culture where you just problem solved. It was like, we call it team effort. Like everything is a team effort. It's not like we had silos. So tech ops had to work with commercial, with research, with development to really enable the product for the patient. And it was really a team sport.
And the product was, you said, badges?
It's called cell therapy.
Okay.
So basically, we take patient's blood, we put in a supervirus and a superpower, and then we inject it back.
Okay.
And so it is a very customized therapy for patients who have blood cancer. And the actual manufacturing is quite, I would say, quite a special secret sauce. It's and it took a lot of people and effort.
Yeah, to customize and to build.
Exactly. And so I had the opportunity at that point when Kite was small. We had 400 people and we had one manufacturing site. And I scaled it within 3.5 years to 4 sites. And we had 3,000 people at that time. My team was about, 40 internal folks. And we were able to produce at that point probably a few thousand batches for patients a year.
Amazing.
Yes.
So
it was an incredible, I think, growth journey and about scalability, about,
impact and cause.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And what made you go back?
So I think, Gilead being the mothership, there was a lot of growth in pipeline at that time. We were now moving from really focusing on virology, which is our core,
Yeah.
to now expanding to oncology as well as inflammation. And so I really wanted to be part of that growth and that scalability. I had such a great learning experience in scaling at Kite that I want to do the same and be part of that journey at Gilead as well. So when we turn back to Gilead, I'm essentially in the same function as what I was at Kite.
Just at a different scale.
Yes, just at a different scale. And I would say the modality is different, but it gave me an opportunity to really be in the front seat of driving a lot of that change.
Let me ask you, because you've been in so many incredible roles in so many different places, and your background is such a strength for you. I'm sure this happened, so I'm curious to hear your opinion. Did you ever feel like you were in a room and you didn't belong, but you had to overcome it? Can you tell us how you did it?
I think in stepping in this new role, so when I went back to Gilead, I left IT. As I said, my background has always been 20 plus years in IT, both as a consultant as well as internal corporate IT. So when I went back to Gilead, I took on this role as chief of staff.
Yeah.
And this chief of staff role is quite different and quite dynamic. No two chief of staff is the same. It's really function and leader specific. What we do on a day-to-day basis is also very different. Even in my chief of staff community within Gilead, we talk to each other. Most of us do very different things.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn a whole different skill set.
Yeah.
Like, this is not my core.
Yeah.
I mean, and the function that I am now part of is very technical. I had to really learn process development, manufacturing, supply chain, quality to a deeper level than what I had to do as an IT business partner.
Because you were supporting the business, but you were not in the details. Now you're deep in the details.
I am deep in the details, and I need to understand in my chief of staff role what's critical and what's not. How do you break through the noise and really get to what is the true problem statement we're trying to solve for, and how urgent is this? Is this just an advice or a decision? And
because you're the guiding light on how quickly this will be executed.
Yes.
Yeah.
In some ways, I am kind of steering our leadership team to figure out how important this is and how quickly should we react or act. And I would say very early on, I think being new into this leadership team, sitting now with EVPs, SVPs, and I'm a peer.
Yeah.
All right. I'm part of the leadership team, but I am very low, I would say, in the totem pole, and feeling like I really didn't belong. It took me quite some time to really get my sea legs, to really understand the value I was providing, the scope of my work, and being able to really add value and really feel like I was part of the leadership team.
How do you overcome that? That's really scary.
I think one is I have a great boss.
Yeah.
She's amazing. I mean, she saw something in me and really lifted me and really gave me this opportunity, right, to jump from something that I was totally not probably prepared for or have the expertise to do. And she really saw something and believed in me. And so with her guidance, I mean, she and I meet regularly. I sit next to her. I mean, she really coached me, I think, through the last 2.5 years to think deeply, to think about problems more extensively and to learn in a way that I haven't learned before.
I love that. I love that. That's your sponsor. That's who gave you your opportunity.
So she's amazing, and I think she's been the best boss I've ever had. Both from just being a sponsor, as you said, but also being drive. I think giving me very tactical and supportive development guidance and advice.
So what do you think? So you're in this room and you're like, I'm way over my head. There's so much technical jargon happening around me. How do I tackle this? What was her advice?
So there was a few things. One, she's like, ask me, you know, if there's something that there's no, stupid questions, right? Like this is obviously new. So if there's something that you're struggling with, terms that you don't understand, like just come and ask, right? I think the rest of the leadership team was also quite open and really open for me to ask questions.
They knew they needed the help and they knew they needed to translate what they're asking for.
Yes. And frankly, like if I am asking as a third party, maybe there are others that
In
are
the room.
asking too, right? That I may not be the only one. Maybe it's not a stupid question after all. Maybe it's something that we were blindsided by or that we thought it was so simple and we had certain assumptions.
Yeah.
But that assumption is not true.
It makes me think of an example. If you could think of one, I run partnerships for a company and I had a project manager come in who's kind of like a chief of staff, much different level, very, very smaller projects, but we were launching partner identified expansion. So revenue driven through partners that is coming into the business on existing customers.
Okay.
And we called it PIE.
Pie?
Partner identified expansion.
Ah, okay.
So she comes in and she's like, oh, this team really likes their food. They really like their pie. And then next meeting she goes, wait, are they tracking in dashboards how much they like the pie? And then she recognized by meeting too. She's like, no, this is not food.
Oh my God.
So I'd love to hear any examples that come to mind of you being in that situation and realizing that there were other people in the room that were actually asking the same question you were.
There's so many, and I mean, a lot of it's technical, frankly, because we are in the process of developing the product, right? So in many ways, we are still figuring out, well, how do we work with research to understand the compound component, and then what do we need to do to then, get it to a clinical state, like formulate the product, right? Do testing, be able to create small batches, right? So we can support clinical trials and then, if it's successful, larger batches for commercialization. So there's so much learning in that process.
Well, so let me ask you. You told me about the little kid in a sweatshop at 12 saying, I will never want to do this. I want to get out and I want to get my family out. So when was the first time you felt like I made it?
In some ways, I almost feel like I still haven't made it. And I was just talking to a colleague of mine in a leadership team today, actually, about what does that mean? I am one where, because when you grow up with not a lot or close to nothing, incrementally, everything seems more. But you don't know what's enough.
Yeah.
Because I actually don't know what does made it mean?
Yeah,
what does ultimate
point?
Success mean? What does, is it a level? Is it money? Is it prestige? I'm not there yet. I am actually not sure what, for me, a true success really means. I'm in a stage where I have deep priorities in life, like family is super important for me, my kids, my husband, my parents, my in-laws, right, are super important to me, my sisters. But I also think that having a sense of accomplishment and a sense of success, whatever that means, whether it's giving back, right, being a good sponsor, being a good mentor, right, to those that I really believe in is really important. But I also think that giving back to community is important. So I recently joined a nonprofit. Chinatown here is very deep in my heart. And that's a place where I want to give back.
Yeah.
So I just joined the board of Chinese Culture Center. It's a place that I really believe in, arts and culture, and really fostering and building and being the center of the community.
Yeah.
Because as I said, community is so important, I think, to me and I think to immigrants. So I think that's kind of my pebbles. I'm laying down some pebbles that I think are my success story, my legacy.
So I'm curious, my favorite question to ask, if you were to give your 3 rules to thrive,
Yeah.
what are they?
My 3 rules to thrive are be curious, stay agile, and give back.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining us today. I loved our conversation, and thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing your entire story with us. I hope it inspires a lot of our audience.
Well,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
being here. Thank you.
Thanks.